right, welcome back. I hope everybody had a good break. I hope you had a chance for a snack or something to keep up your energy because we have two more really wonderful panels coming up that I know you don't want to miss a single word that's going to be said. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to someone really special, really a groundbreaking pioneer in her work. Over to you, Carol. And Carol Cohn, founder and CEO of Carol Cohn on Purpose, is our moderator and is going to lead our next session. Over to you, Carol.
Thank you so much, Gail. And I'm so thrilled to be here with a group of amazing colleagues. I've worked with them. I've known them for years. Each one has at least 20 years of experience leading their organizations in the integration of authentic purpose to have a true impact. And so Balaji, Johanna, and James, from very different industries, technology, biotechnology, consumer products. You're going to hear some great insights that you can apply tomorrow, because it's no longer if we do this, it's now about the how. So I'd like to start just with a little bit of research. For those of you who know me, I've been working in the field for almost 40 years. And those first, 2 decades, it was really lonely. And so I decided to conduct research. And this is my 31st piece of research, because I needed to validate that linking an organization with society and the environment to enhance business success, as well as culture, operations, innovation, deepen relationships. It was very, very new years ago. Well, now it's accepted, and that's great, but it's now about the how. Now, the other thing is that I call it purpose, an organization's aspirational reason for being, beyond just making a profit, that's based in humanity. I know earlier, yesterday and some other sessions, there's lots of different names, whether it's, when I started, it was cause marketing. Now we hear ESG and all sorts of things in between. You could even see the different titles from my colleagues today. The point I always like to make, and here's my first coaching point, which is that whomever you're talking with in your organization, we're always teaching. And so what are your objectives? What are the business objectives? Who's the audience? What's the priority of impacting that audience? What's the outcome? And then when you have that in alignment, you can then utilize the term that you're most comfortable with. Well, I conducted Purpose Under Pressure this year. It was a post-COVID investigation of employees and their attitudes to their organizations, as well as functional areas within companies. Had COVID had an impact, and what were people going to do? Now, we called it Purpose Under Pressure because we believe, and we conducted it with Harris and Allison and partners, again, a collaborative effort to share important information, because we feel that purpose is at a crossroads. Now, the organizations today, they have a deep commitment, they're authentic, and they keep advancing their work. Sometimes they fail, they learn from their failures, but they keep going forward. That's the important and optimistic side of purpose. Then there's the other road, which is the not deeply done. Let's talk about it before we have impact. And it's called any sort of washing, pink washing, green washing, whatever color. Well, we don't want you to go down that path. So you're really smart to be at this conference the last 2 days to learn authentic engagement. So let me show you, I'm just going to give you 2 takeaways. The rest of this information is on our website, Carol Cohn on Purpose, easy to find. So here's the first point. We all work 70, 80, 90,000 hours in our lives. That's a lot of work. And what we found from this research is that employees, no matter what level, they want to know the meaning of their effort to their company, to themselves, to their communities, the world, even their families. If I'm going to give you that much effort, I want something back. I want to be part of something larger than myself. The other thing, 91%, the top number in this, boy, I really feel that I'm in the right place because there's rolling waters here. And I know that my company has a deep commitment to doing something beyond profit. I'm glad I'm here. The number at the bottom, 84% said, I only want to work for a purpose-driven company. We're still in a war for talent. Everyone wants the best people, even if we're in or close to a recession. So authentically determining your purpose and activating it, that's why we're here today for this discussion. The second part is there's good news and bad news. And there's a lot on this slide, but let me give you the high level. The C-suite gets purpose now. Yay. It took me decades for that to happen. I'm so excited. And I know my colleagues are excited about it too. They're great practitioners. And HR, great partners with the C-suite. Here's the challenge. Sales, marketing, and strategy, there's a 20 to 30 point gap between how they feel purpose is important, should be embraced, and is a business strategy to drive them forward. There's a gap. That gap needs to be closed. This research tells you how to do it, but here's the next steps. Very, very simple, and I feel profound. Make purpose specific. When you discover it, then make it clear and authentic and personal. Tie it to my values and the organization's values. Make it a lens for decision making, and embrace purpose. It's everyone's job. And when you do that, here's what you get. You get this incredible unleashing of human magic. And Hubert Joly, who was the CEO of Best Buy, when he turned them around on the brink of bankruptcy with defining their purpose, enriching people's lives through technology and activating it and giving meaning to his employees, they had an incredible 5 years, came out of the doldrums, and truly had an organization based on magic. So that's my introduction. Now we're going to have our conversation. So I'm going to start with Balaji. So Balaji, can you please share what is your role, your title, and then what's the purpose of Tata Consultancy Services?
Thank you, Gail and Carol. Such a pleasure to be here. My name is Balaji Ganapathy. I'm the Chief Social Responsibility Officer of Tata Consultancy Services. We are the world's second most valuable information technology company with $26 billion in revenue, over 600,000 employees in 50 countries, and coming from 150 different nationalities. Our purpose for existence is to build greater futures through innovation and collective knowledge. We know that we live in an era where purpose is the new tech, and in order to harness purpose, companies need to use the power of digital technologies to help communities, countries, and consumers. And that's our organizational purpose. And tied to that is our social purpose, which is to connect people to opportunities in the digital economy. And the reason for that is we are all born with equal potential, but not with equal opportunity. And we believe that access to opportunity can create pathways to prosperity.
Great, thank you, thank you. Interestingly, there's two purposes. There's the organizational purpose and the social purpose. Johanna, over to you.
I serve as the global head of corporate reputation and responsibility at Biogen. And for more than 40 years, we've been a pioneer in neuroscience. So what that means is we discover, develop, and deliver worldwide innovative therapies for people living with serious neurological diseases. So this includes areas like multiple sclerosis, spinal muscular atrophy, even Alzheimer's, ALS, and more. But our purpose is all about serving humanity through science so that people can live healthier, fuller lives. And we advance this purpose through our therapies and robust pipeline, ensuring access to patients, and also through our various ESG commitments and including stakeholder engagement. So in my role specifically, that includes a number of different things from issues management and crisis management, stakeholder engagement, and our corporate reporting programs, because transparency, I feel like, is a thread woven throughout our purpose work. It also includes driving key programs like our Healthy Climate, Healthy Lives initiative, which is our commitment to go fossil fuel free. I mentioned supporting access and even health equity in the areas of the disease areas that we treat. It could be partnering with our HR teams to advance diversity, equity, inclusion. And then, of course, supporting our work in the community, including our foundation, as well as Community Lab, which is one of the oldest running hands-on corporate science programs in the country. So there's a number of priorities that even arise throughout the day that we have to shift and adjust to. But overall, that's how we see our role and purpose at our company.
Super. Thank you. James, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is James Sandora. I am the Global Head of Integrated Marketing at Bissell. Bissell is a 146-year-old consumer products company. It's a multi-generational, family-run, privately held organization, which gives us a lot of really incredible opportunities to bring the values of family into the way in which we operate as an organization every single day. Bissell's purpose is providing a happy, healthy home for people and pets to share. This is something that we believe very, very deeply in across the organization, and this is manifesting not just in the way that we develop products, how we talk about those products, and the relationships that we create with the homes that our products are in, but also the Bissell Pet Foundation, which is an incredible organization that is now 11 years old and does fantastic work around the world, but especially in North America, in ensuring that every pet everywhere has a loving home to care for them and for the pet to care for the family that they join.
So thank you. And anything about pets, obviously, those who know me, I'm a huge pet person. I've got a number of pets in my family. So it's an amazing and surprising and delightful, and it's so embedded into Bissell's, just everything that you do. So I want to ask James, who is the most important stakeholder for you? And maybe there's a couple. And how do you really focus on them to activate your purpose?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on what part of the organization you're talking about, right? So for the Bissell Pet Foundation itself, the stakeholders are adoption agencies, shelters, foundations around the world that need support in providing a caring space for the pets that they bring into their care. So this means that the Bissell Pet Foundation is working directly with these foundations to be sure that they have the services and resources that they need in order to both find families for these pets and give them the most caring, loving environment that they can while they're within the care of the foundation in and of itself. And the Pet Foundation does really incredible work advocating for the lives of pets, doing reach out and building relationships with these foundations around the world, which is applied in every way from providing hands-on services and adoption care for the pets to actually flying pets to places around the country and around the world where there is a higher demand or need for pets. The mission, providing every pet a home, is something that we take very, very seriously and invest quite a bit to be sure that we are sort of easing the burden that falls within these smaller nonprofit organizations, often hyper-local organizations around the country.
Great, and we're going to get further. Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
No, on the commercial side of our organization, our objective is to make sure that every consumer, every homeowner, everyone that wants a product feels the authenticity of our purpose and how it is not just in the way that we develop our product from insights based on what it's like to live with a pet, but also that you can share in our mission of providing a loving home for every pet. Every purchase saves pets is something that Bissell has stood by for a number of years. It's a model that I'm sure you see a number of organizations, if not the one that you also work for, doing, where every purchase or every interaction you have with us as an organization contributes to our foundation and that mission. Our challenge has been to make sure that these stakeholders, these consumers, really see and feel the authentic value that they're creating by participating and purchasing our products.
Super. So we're going to get into some of more of the key elements to activate that. So Johanna, I'd love to turn it over to you. What key stakeholders are you focusing on to activate your purpose?
Wonderful. Thank you. So as a healthcare company, everything we do is focused on helping people live fuller lives. So we, of course, focus on our patients, their caregivers, and families. But we have a number of other stakeholders that we also engage to help with the overall kind of ecosystem and supporting these patients. So that even includes our current and prospective employees, customers, healthcare providers, payers, investors, policymakers, like I could go on, professional associations, and so forth. But I truly believe our authentic purpose starts with our employees. I mean, they're truly our number one asset. And what I like to think about is not just our current employees, but our prospective employees as well. And the ways that our employees feel and live our purpose can look different across different roles that they play in different parts of the world. One program that we launched earlier this year was Thrive at Biogen, which includes creating an individualized engagement and development plan for every employee. We also had a strong focus on employee well-being this year through some benefits. We were able to grant employees 5 days paid time off during our first wellness week earlier this year. And I can tell you as an employee, that was super helpful. We're also communicating with our colleagues in public policy and government affairs. And we recently have a new benefit for paid time off for voting. So we all know the election's coming up. So that just is to give a little bit more flexibility and support to our employees. But another area where we really try to engage our employees is trying to harness the innovation and their ideas. So thinking about how they can help us in healthcare and health equity and enhancing patient outcomes. So our employees are a huge part of advancing our DE&I strategy. And part of that includes exceeding industry benchmarks when it comes to diversity in clinical trials. It also includes some of our work that we're doing with Harvard and AmeriCares to help under-resourced health clinics address climate risk and climate resiliency. And then the other area is sort of providing, more sustainable solutions. So yes, we're delivering these therapies for neurological diseases, but can we do so in a way that improves the sustainability of the product themselves, more sustainable packaging, or conducting, product life cycle assessments to reduce the product carbon footprint. So harnessing our employees' innovative ideas to help us in that way is key. So employees is, one of our top stakeholder groups. But of course, in the era of stakeholder capitalism, we must go beyond and engage a diverse array of stakeholders.
Super. And we'll get into that in one of your favorite initiatives on our next set of questions. Balaji, again, which are the most important stakeholders? And I know you've got a lot at TCS. And which ones are you truly going deeper with to activate your purpose?
Thank you, Carol. Such rich experiences from both the panelists. So from TCS perspective, see, the Tata Group was founded 154 years ago. And our founder's vision was that community is not just another stakeholder, but the very purpose of existence of business. So even today, this large conglomerate and our $26 billion organization is owned 66% by two charitable trusts. So the model of nation building and community building is central to who we are and why we exist. So I would say that our most important stakeholder are people and communities themselves. And every day, our purpose, how we live our purpose for that stakeholder, is to identify how we can work with companies around the world to create better lives and greater outcomes for their consumers, whether it is healthcare equity or access to a clean environment or sustainability or financial inclusion, all the different outcomes that B2B organizations are or B2C organizations are looking to achieve, how to help that. And the second key stakeholder then becomes our employees. how do we help them achieve their full potential? And then the third stakeholder becomes, how do we look at impact on the community at large? So I want to end this answer by saying that, ever since the pandemic hit, we have created 168,000 jobs. We believe that is a responsibility of business to create new opportunities so that communities can thrive. We invested 141 million hours in training and professional development so that employees can upskill themselves and look for opportunities to enhance their own career. And we invested $312 million into community initiatives, along with 2.5 million volunteer hours, resulting in about 4.5 million people impacted around the world during and post the pandemic. So that's a worldview of our key stakeholder, which is people and communities, and how we operate.
That's incredible. And again, for anyone who wants to follow Tata, the Tata trusts are just something to really examine. They are so old and they are so rich and they're so real. I'd like to ask each one of you now, I know you've got lots of initiatives, but you've got, James, you've got the Pet Foundation. James, I want you to say, why did Bissell focus on pets? Because it is a huge key distinction for your brand, and you're in a war for incredible, there's lots of other competitors to you. So I'm just curious about why pets. I know that's your core initiative. I'd love you to go deeper. And then Johanna and Balaji, talk about one of you've got lots, but your favorite initiative and truly how it's had an impact on the business and society. But James, talk about why pets.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think it's a combination of personal passion from the Bissell family in and of itself, but also the idea that we believe very deeply that families are inclusive of the pets that we bring into our homes. And frankly, there's just such an amazing opportunity for brands like Bissell to help facilitate what that looks like for families around the world, right? So not just in the practical foundations of being able to clean up pets, but really embracing the messes that they make in ways that we as pet owners know and love. It's not an inconvenience to have to clean up a pet mess when you love that animal like you do the rest of your family. And I think leaning into that relationship is so very meaningful and emotional and practical and impactful. And it matches so well the personal purposes of the Bissell family and so many of us as employees within the organization that it became a really easy way to create both differentiation for us as a brand, but also create meaningful and connected, impactful stories for how it is that we can facilitate the relationship between people and pets.
Yeah, and I love the verbiage that you have in your ads and on your website, because it's not being perfect. It's about embracing, to your point, the inclusivity, the muddy paw prints or such. I just think it gives such emotion and personality to the brand. And I'm assuming huge loyalty with your customers and your employees.
It does indeed. I mean, I think, when you have a pet that you love, and I know so many of us do, it's really easy to create that personal emotional connection with a brand or another person, even at that level, that shares that love with you and shares an understanding of what it means to have a pet as a member of your family.
Yeah, it's great. Johanna, I know you've got a number of great initiatives, and I know you want to say one's more favorite than the other, but please dive deeper and really explain the elements that make it so authentic, and even some of the challenges you may have to make sure you get the time, the resources to make it really work well.
Great, thank you. And James, I love the connection to pets, by the way. I feel like I could talk about that all day as well. So that's excellent work. So one key initiative I love to talk about, and an initiative that actually engages multiple stakeholders, is Biogen's Healthy Climate, Healthy Lives initiative. This we launched in 2020, and it's a 20-year commitment to advance climate, health, and equity. And at its root, this program recognizes that the climate crisis is really a health crisis. And we have to engage a variety of stakeholders to truly advance bold action in this issue. So when we announced this initiative, we became the first Fortune 500 company to commit to going fossil fuel free. And this begins with zero emissions from our operations by 2030 in the US and 2040 globally. And this is critical because fossil fuel emissions not only drive global warming, but they also harm human health and are a leading cause of death globally. So that's where it truly connects to our purpose as a company. So as part of this, we're engaging our employees. So like I said, our employees are driving a lot of the innovative work that we do. And one of the ways is through a My Green Lab certification that addresses green chemistry to energy, water use, and waste in a lab environment. And over 80% of our labs are currently striving for My Green Lab certification. But it's not just engaging employees at work, it's also at home, and even trying to enable our employees to live more sustainably at home. So we have new employee benefits that helps to cover the cost difference of switching to renewable electricity. We even have a reimbursement program that if you purchase a product to help you go fossil fuel free in your home, whether it's switching to electric, transportation, getting rid of plastics, we will give you a small reimbursement for that. We're also engaging with suppliers and even collaborating with our peer companies across pharmaceutical biotech industry to engage our suppliers all together. So we formed a group called Energize, which is a first of its kind effort to decarbonize our industry. And we're also advancing strategic collaborations with some global leaders like the World Business Council on Sustainable Development, the World Economic Forum, and even institutions like Harvard and MIT. And what I love about some of this work, and especially with Harvard, if I can drill into that, is we're actually engaging over 2,000 frontline community health clinics with tools to address the impact of climate on public health. So these tools support climate resiliency in natural disasters such as hurricanes, wildfires, even heat waves. And these events greatly impact human health. So with this work, we're taking a long-term view with these programs. And I know that in our community, we also have efforts like our community lab, which is the longest running hands-on science education program in the country. So really trying to inspire the next generation of scientists through reaching underserved and underrepresented students in the field of biotech. So I wanted to throw that in because that's another passion. I know that we had to choose one, but I wanted to mention our community lab. So we truly feel that with this range of stakeholders, we are able to create a healthier, more sustainable world.
Sorry. I love the fact that you went from employee, from the inside to the outside, and that you have many collaborations. Balaji, over to you.
Thanks, Carol. So it's amazing to hear these stories, of companies that are committed to the long-term goals and bringing their best, which is basically the core competencies to create impact. So our journey in looking at people and communities and how to create access to opportunities in the digital economy helped us realize that we cannot boil the ocean, but we can target ourselves to achieving outcomes for specific groups of people. So our prioritization is to build equitable and inclusive pathways for women, youth, and marginalized groups in the communities where we live and work. And what that means is all the way from literacy to education to 21st century skills to gainful employment and new job opportunities in the digital economy to self-employment and entrepreneurship to creating digital access for rural communities around the world that don't have access to frontline services. So it spans this gamut of areas. But what I wanted to talk about is one initiative and explain the model of stakeholder engagement that we have in place. So we have what I call the purpose ecosystem that we have built. So people and communities are at the center of that ecosystem. Say, for example, if the problem that we are tackling is underrepresentation of women, girls, and minorities in STEM education and careers, then the people and communities that we focus on are those who are marginalized the most and get the least resources. What we observe is that many organizations have the capacity to go and support things in their local neighborhood, but the marginalization may be happening in inner cities or in rural parts of the country or the world where your programs may not reach. So those are the ones that we prioritize, because as a technology company with the workforce and the resources that we have, we can, start to address those more difficult community spatial disparities and start from there. So that's this first point, right? So from the people and communities, then we build programs and design programs along with cross-sector partners. So working with schools, working with influencers, parents, people who are from the community, whether it is policymakers or leaders, to understand what are the needs that are typical to the communities. Say, for example, our GoIT program, which since 2009 has been inspiring young people to be digital innovators, so that they are not consumers of technology alone, but they can create solutions. They can identify community problems, learn how to use design thinking, problem solving techniques, and then learn technology, not as a means of coding and programming, but as a way of problem solving, right? So we create and customize these programs and then bring the next element of our purpose ecosystem, which is business integration. How do we get our employees involved, not just for episodic volunteerism, but for purposeful service, which basically means you are the only one who can solve that problem. In STEM education, often the challenge is if you can't see it, you can't be it. And so by having role models who are very diverse, to go and connect with young people in the who are from underrepresented backgrounds in the community, it gives them context and confidence, right? It gives them context of how I'm going to learn these skills and apply these skills, and gives them confidence that if you can do it, I can do it too. Then we integrate business groups, and those business groups bring real world flavor, right? So somebody from our new practices like drones or artificial intelligence or machine learning might come and talk about things that are cool, but not just from a technology perspective. How is it used to solve some of the UN SDGs? And how are real world examples of this living out? So these young people then get inspired to think beyond the boundaries of their local community and start to imagine what is the art of the possible in those larger problem sets. So then we go from business integration to customer integration. And like many of you earlier said, this is not a problem that you can solve all on your own. So our best advocates are our customers, whom we work with to help solve their problems. So we work along with them to bring real world flavor. What can you do in the areas of healthcare? What are the large problems in food or in travel and hospitality or in telecommunication with the introduction of 5G, right? So we bring those real world problems and their own employees and their resources to add on top of what the community has to offer. And then the final piece is to the purpose ecosystem is cross-sector efforts, where we involve like-minded organizations to come up not just with programs, but use programs as a lighthouse to say, how do we advance policy in this space? If it is STEM education, how can you change the status quo, right? What kind of policies you need to adopt? What kind of funding do you need? What kind of resources do you need? What kind of industry and cross-sector task forces can you form to advance this? And that's where we've seen the most results, right? So from a program like GoIT, which has reached about 150,000 students in 200 cities across North America, to a movement like Million Women Mentors that involved 36 different companies and partners that reached over 2.5 million girls. So that's the power of creating an ecosystem and working with like-minded partners.
Super. We have about 10, 12 minutes left. But I love, Balaji, that you brought up the ecosystem, because now that we are in the era of the how, all of you have said it's not just us, that we have our employees and we have clarity. We bring in our business partners, we bring in public affairs, we bring in local NGOs, and we work in a collaborative manner. I want each of you briefly to talk about a lesson learned or an insight related to how you are advancing in your ecosystem. So I'm going to start with James. So what's a key insight? Because you're working with a lot of external groups, your employees and such. You're not just doing spay and neuter programs, you're relocating. What's a key insight to make this ecosystem work?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it sounds so silly to say and it feels so obvious, but I think empathy and sort of really localizing your effort to be sure that you're understanding the needs of the individual, like tentacles of that ecosystem is so very important. Not applying a sort of one size fits all approach to how it is that you engage all of those partners, but understanding their needs and customizing your solutions and the connection that you have with each one of those arms is so very important.
And I love the fact that you brought up empathy and localization. Johanna, what's a key insight, because you're working with lots of different partners at many different levels?
So I think I have a few, but I'll choose one. And I think it's about how engaging your stakeholders and inviting them to co-create solutions and helping you to address these challenges. So one, I mentioned our employees, and we actually hosted an innovation challenge that surfaced over 200 new ideas. And we worked with our employees to actually follow up on every single idea and close the loop on what this means, how it could help impact Biogen's fossil fuel-free footprint, but also to advance the issue of climate, health, and equity. So it's really, you know, utilizing them to co-create solutions. And likewise, we're inviting our suppliers to help us in addressing these challenges, and even business and professional associations. So I mentioned some of the work that we're doing with leaders like the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. We actually co-chaired a climate and health initiative with them. So it's bringing those across the industry to talk about this nexus of climate, health, and equity together.
I love your point about co-creation, because, you know, there was a bridge that happened where companies, it was no longer about them and just their ideas. And that was a significant shift in terms of bringing authenticity to their purpose and to their work. Balaji, what's a great insight from your standpoint?
I'm just amazed by the insights shared by Johanna and James. To me, I think understanding and staying true to who's at the center of your ecosystem matters, right? Who are you doing this for? And if it is whom you want to serve and whom you want to benefit, I think everything else will fall in place very easily, right? So to me, who's at the center of your ecosystem is the biggest question you have to ask yourself, and how can you make them successful? And often meeting people and communities where they are at is the path to that, right? So you may have great ideas, you may have programs that have worked, you may have innovations that have succeeded in one context, but before applying it in a community, can you talk to people? Can you engage them? Can you understand what their observations and learnings are, and then incorporate that into what you're doing, so that collectively you can create impact. So those are the lessons.
Great. Well, thank you. So we have about 7 or 8 minutes left, and I always love to turn to those that I'm working with to allow you to give kind of a final statement and insight. Truly, again, we're talking about authentic engagement of your stakeholders to have a true impact. So I'm going to start with you, Balaji, and then we'll go around the horn. And if you want to talk with each other, that's great too.
Yeah, I thanks for that opportunity, Carol. I think my call to action, rather, to all of our practitioners and friends who are in this space is, it is my belief that the future of the enterprise is going to be carbon negative and social positive. So carbon negative basically means not only having the tools and resources and goals to create carbon neutrality or net zero outcomes for your own organization, but can we open source those sort of solutions and technologies and innovations so that those communities that are being left behind today and are going to take several more decades to achieve those climate goals can achieve it in a short period of time. And at the same time, social positive means that many people are going to question the authenticity of purpose and how it is lived in our organizations. And we have to face those questions. But social positive means that we get to a place where we start to not only talk about reach and impact, but also ask what kind of outcomes are we creating in communities? Are those outcomes the ones that those whom we are trying to serve need? And what other additional resources do you need to pool and bring in this sort of an ecosystem approach? So carbon negative, social positive. That's my
I love that. Okay, James?
I think so. I'll make mine about sort of tactical activation of purpose. You know, everyone here spoke about how important the employees are within our organizations and bringing purpose to life. And I think what I found is that that becomes really meaningful and really tangible when we challenge our employees to identify what their own personal purpose is. What do they stand for as individuals? And then challenge organizational purpose and really make it feel real. Make it feel that the things that they stand for, that they believe in, whether or not it's directly related to the organizational purpose, have a direct linkage to what it is that we as a business stand for. It brings a degree of realism, and it brings a measure of accountability to every single person within the organization to live and breathe the purpose that we stand for every day.
And I love that. And we hear this again and again and again with our clients, and we go to conferences and such, which is, I have personal values. My organization is showing me the values. Show me how we can interrelate them. And I think that is such the next step of truly transformational organizations that are showing, as Balaji said, I love carbon negative and social positive. That is so cool. Johanna, call to action. You want to make an additional statement? Over to you.
Absolutely. And I think this kind of builds a little bit on what James was saying. But, you know, as a science-based company, we track, we share data on issues that concern us. But the most important part of what we do is engage in storytelling. And I think that in order to get our employees or other community members engaged, it really is telling the story about what, you know, purpose means, what is it in practice, how everybody can participate. So we do a number of events, whether it's in person, on or activations on social media, our internal communication channels, and just trying to provide our stakeholders with hands-on ways to engage and connect with our purpose. So for example, our events where employees can hear directly from our patient community. It can also be our foundation volunteer opportunities. And I gotta say, like, I know sometimes our global volunteer activities, we do it once every year. And I'll have to admit, there's a lot of logistics, a lot to organize and coordinate with these events, but they're so impactful. You know, the feedback that we hear from employees to actually see the students that they're touching, or you know, impacting some of the great organizations, whether it's food insecurity or STEM education, and the issues that we care so deeply about, to actually have them roll up their sleeves and get involved is so important. So we're trying to do more with storytelling to engage our stakeholders to our overall company purpose.
Well, you guys, you know, man, I want to reach out and give you all a big kiss. I love the way you've really brought this to a close in terms of, you know, Balaji, you talked about the ecosystem, the carbon negative and socially positive love. I love that, Johanna, you talk about open source, that a company does not have all the answers at all. There's an arrogance there if you do. Balaji, you opened up with being a servant leader. And I think that doing this work well requires servant leadership. I am here for you. It is not about me. James, so thank you so much about bringing up employees. I have been talking about employees as the core stakeholder for over 2 decades. And it is only recently, in the past 5 years or so, when the war for talent, especially tech talent, got to be so extreme that companies finally realized their employees are their engine for growth. They are not to be communicated at, they are to be empowered and to be part of the center of the ecosystem. I love the comment about storytelling, because we can talk about data, we can talk about goals, but we all know that when we hear the story about that one person or community that was touched, It is the most profound way. I just want to give a plug for Purpose 360. It's my podcast, it's my passion project. Johanna's been on it, Balaji's been on it a number of times, and Jamesy will be on it in the future. So thank you, Gail, for this opportunity to have this amazing conversation. I trust that your listeners have gotten a lot of pearls of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom from this group. Thank you, Gail.
Awesome. Thank you, Carol, Johanna, James, and Balaji. I'm going to close us out now. We just have one final panel of the day. Hang in there. You don't want to miss this one. And then a few closing remarks for us to end at 2:30 Eastern Time. Of course, that varies by the location that you're in. So give yourself a 5-minute break, but do come back. And I look forward to seeing you in about 5 minutes. Thank you.